Let's call him Raghav, though his name could be any name from any forgotten village, moves with a rhythm that technology cannot replicate. His fingers glide over the clay or wood or fabric with an intimacy that comes only from a lifetime of practice, a lifetime of listening to the materials speak. "This is not work," he says with a soft smile, almost embarrassed by the attention. "This is love, this is devotion, this is who I am." And yet, behind that gentle smile lies a sadness too deep to hide. For Raghav knows that he might be the last in his family, or perhaps in his entire village, to carry this craft forward. As he shapes a pot with slow, deliberate movements, he tells stories of how his grandfather taught him, how as a child he would sit by the wheel or loom or anvil, mesmerized by the dance of hands and the magic of creation, how every mistake was a lesson, every finished piece a prize. But now, he says, children no longer sit and watch. They sit with phones, dreaming not. In a world racing forward with dizzying speed, where machines hum, screens glow, and convenience replaces craft, there still exist tiny corners of forgotten India, where hands, weathered by time, cracked by sun, toughened by generations of labor, continue to create beauty with nothing but patience, memory, and devotion. And it is here, in these narrow lanes and silent workshops, that the story of dying skills begins. A story stitched into every fiber of our land. A story that whispers through clay, bamboo, metal, wood, and thread. A story that is now on the brink of disappearing forever. When you first step into the dimly lit workspace of an old craftsman, there is a stillness, a kind of sacred quiet, as if time itself pauses to watch these hands at work. The tools scattered around are not mere instruments, but heirlooms, passed down for generations, each carrying the marks of countless creations and countless dreams. The man who sits before, of craft but of cities, salaries, and screens, because the world has changed and the old ways no longer bring enough to survive. The market wants cheaper things, faster things, machine-made things that look perfect but have no soul. People buy plastic because it costs less than handmade clay. They choose factory-made bamboo decor because it arrives quicker than the slow, careful work of a local artisan. And so these ancient skills, once the pride of communities, now struggle for breath, fading slowly like a flame fighting against wind. As Raghav works, every sound becomes a part of the narrative. The scrape of a blade on wood, the soft thump of clay pressed into shape, the rhythmic clatter of a loom echoing through an empty house, the metallic ring of a hammer shaping hot iron, sounds that once filled bustling artisan districts, but now echo in near silence. He wipes sweat from his forehead, not from exhaustion, but from the intensity of focus. He explains each step, not as a tutorial, but as a memory, a ritual, a responsibility. "These patterns are older than me," he says, "older than my father. Some say older than this village itself. But as beautiful as the craft is, the life behind it is filled with hardships, long hours, uncertain income, raw materials becoming expensive, middlemen taking unfair cuts, festivals and markets shrinking, and government schemes arriving too late or too rarely." He tells of days when he worked 14 hours straight, only to sell a piece for less than what the materials cost. Days when rain destroyed clay, when bamboo cracked, when fabrics wouldn't dye properly. Weeks when no one came to buy anything, and he wondered whether he should finally give up. His wife enters the frame, holding tea, and quietly adds, "He says he will stop every year, but he never can. This work is like breath to him." She smiles, but the heaviness in her eyes reveals the truth. Tradition alone cannot feed a family. Their children, like many others across the country, have chosen not to learn the craft. They want stable jobs, modern lives, and technology-driven futures. And Raghav does not blame them. "Why should they struggle like we did?" he asks softly. "This art gives peace, but it does not give money. Yet even as the world turns away, even as hopes fade. There's an unshakable resilience in him. He continues to work, not because he expects reward, but because the craft itself is a living memory that he refuses to let die. As the camera moves closer, every wrinkle on his hands tells a story of childhood, of learning, of passion, of endurance, of loss, and of love. The workshop feels like a museum come alive, with artifacts still being created by the last surviving curator. The deeper you explore his world, the more you realize that these dying skills are not merely objects or products. They are philosophies, slow rituals that teach patience in a world obsessed with speed, art forms that demand discipline in an era of shortcuts, practices that remind us that beauty grows not from convenience, but from commitment. Outside, the sun begins to set, casting long shadows through the door, and as gold light falls on his half-finished piece, the craft suddenly looks sacred, fragile yet powerful, ancient yet vulnerable. People don't understand. Maghav whispers, when this disappears, we lose more than a skill. We lose a piece of who we are. His words hang heavy in the air, echoing long after they're spoken. The documentary widens its lens to show other artisans, women weaving with fading eyesight, an aging blacksmith working with tools older than himself, a lone musician crafting a folk instrument that no one buys anymore, a potter whose wheel spins slower every year, men and women who were once central to their communities but are now forgotten by the world. These are not just individuals. They are the final guardians of India's intangible heritage, standing like the last pages of a book that may never be read again. And yet, there is hope, small but real. A few young people return to revive family traditions. Some NGOs organize workshops. Tourists occasionally buy handmade goods. Social media sometimes discovers a hidden gem of a craftsperson. But this hope is fragile and needs nurturing, needs recognition, needs a world willing to slow down and appreciate the human touch. As the documentary nears its end, Raghav finishes his piece, a pot, a toy, a basket, a sculpture. Whatever the material may be, it represents the same message, the beauty of a dying craft captured in one last masterpiece. He places it gently on a wooden shelf, sighs, and looks into the camera, not with complaint, but with quiet dignity. Maybe, he says, maybe if people see this, they will remember us. The closing shot lingers on his hands, rough yet graceful, trembling slightly not from age, but from the weight of a legacy he fears he cannot carry much longer. And as the frame slowly fades to black, a final thought echoes through the silence. Dying skills do not die because they are weak. They die because the world forgets to value them. And perhaps, by telling these stories, by witnessing these final flames before they disappear, we can learn not only to appreciate the hands that shaped our past, but also to protect the heritage that shapes our identity. This is not just the story of Raghav. It is the story of countless artisans whose lives are woven into the fabric of our culture, whose fading skills remind us that in the race toward the future, we must not forget the treasures we leave behind.